We have all the ingredients we need. We have some kosher for Passover matzah. We've got plenty of eggs, mixing bowl, oil, and a pan. I am using this. The first thing that we need to do is decide how much matzah we're going to make. How much fried matzah we're going to make. Now the rule is 1 sheet of matzah to 1 egg. So if we want to have some leftovers that we can warm up for breakfast and so on, I would say let's make 5 sheets of matzah. So we take 1. Now the technique I use is to put it on the 4 corners like this and then to smash it. And 2, smash it. So we kind of break this up into fine pieces. Now some people say, well, why don't you just use, matzah meal, because that's already ground up real small. Too small. We want to use, we want to have some decent sized pieces of matzah in there. Alright, so once they're broken up into small sized chunks, anywhere from this being the largest, down to specks, then we're going to soak the matzah. So when we soak the matzah, we don't need to let it soak for too long. I'd say just as long as the matzah gets saturated with the water. So I'm going to take the matzah over to the sink. And just get that matzah all saturated with water. Make sure you wash your hands first. You don't need to fill the whole bowl up, just enough so that the matzah is covered. And I kind of work the matzah a little bit as I do it. Just to make sure it really absorbs the water. And you don't want to go too long.
18 minutes.
That's right, you can't go too long. So, alright, now that it's kind of saturated, we're going to drain the matzah. It helps to have a bowl like this with a little lip so you can just kind of put your finger over it.
Or you could use a strainer.
You could use a strainer, but the matzah would really get all stuck in that strainer. Make kind of a mess. You might lose some of the littler pieces, but that's okay. You really do want to try and get as much of the water out as possible. So you can kind of press it down and then strain it again. So you can get a little more water out. Okay, well, that's probably fine. Before I do the next step, I want to get the oil warming up for the frying. We're not stingy with the oil around here. So we'll get that going. I'm going to put that on like a medium high. While that's warming up, we'll crack the eggs. Now remember we did 5 pieces of matzah, so I'm going to crack the egg into this bowl and put the shell on the plate. 1. See, and because I got a little piece of shell in there. 1. We probably don't need to videotape each of the 5 eggs, although maybe it's interesting to some people. 2.
Especially if there's sound effects after it gets broken.
Indeed. All right. 1, 2, 3. Kaboom! Ta-da! 4. Kaboom! Ta-da! Oh, got it on my shirt. Fula. Kaboom! Ta-da! Now we stir the eggs into the matzah to make a nice good mixture. You want to get it all evenly distributed. Now, some people might add salt. You can do that to taste. My preference is to add the salt after it's made. And each person can choose how much salt they want. I find you don't really need a whole lot of salt. I usually serve with salt and strawberry preserves. Now, you don't want to rush it into the oil. You want to make sure the oil is ready. And that's nothing special for fried matzah, but I just reiterate the point. Good shot of that being stirred up there. It's looking good. It's looking good. I'd look to see if these are jumbo eggs. No, they're just large. If they're jumbo, you might just want to use 4 eggs for 5 pieces of matzo because you don't want it to be too runny. Now I'm going to flip just a drop of water into the oil to see if it's ready. Sounds good to me. Alright, now this is pretty dangerous stuff here, so kids, don't try this by yourselves. That is not hot. Okay, so...
It might get hot.
Might get hot. Alright, I'll get out my kosher. Okay. Oh, you know what I need? Is a plate to put the fried matzo on. What I do is I put a paper towel on the plate to soak up some of the extra oil. You certainly obviously want to have the oil taste, but you don't need to clog your arteries with every drop of oil here. Okay. So, here we go. First set. Into the oil it goes. Oh yeah, look at that sizzle. Look at that sizzle. That's perfect. That's just perfect. So this is an important tool to have to keep yourself from getting splattered and burned. You always get a little splattered and burned, and that's part of the fun. You know, you can see it. It's really more about hearing it than seeing it to know when it's ready. Sometimes the first piece doesn't get quite as brown and crispy as the subsequent pieces, but it should be golden. What I do is I kind of poke it through like that so that when I flip it, I'm not flipping as big pieces. But it still usually splatters and burns me when I flip it, nonetheless. At least I protect my face. That's starting to feel pretty good. One way I keep from splattering too much is to use a fork to help me flip. Look at that nice golden brown color on the edge. It's really looking fine. When you're done, you want to wipe down the counter with 409 because there's a little bit of egg out there. We'll give that a minute or two. A minute or two. Now, an option is when you flip it, you can say kaboom. It's always an option. I did it with the eggs, but you could also do it with the actual fried matzo. You could flip it, you go flip, kaboom! And you can even go like this when you say kaboom, but really this is more for ta-da. Ta-da! So we'll do a big ta-da when we take this out. I'm just going to give it about another 20 seconds or so, and we'll take it out, we'll put it on the top layer here, and then we'll let it cool for like a minute, because it is hot with the oil, so you don't want to eat it too fast. We'll let it cool for a minute, and we'll sit down and enjoy our Passover fried matzo. All right, here we go. Look at that piece. Look at that perfect piece of fried matzo. Another daddy perfect one. There's a lot of oil on these fried matzos. And we did use just the right amount of oil. Not a whole lot left to waste. And there we have it. It's tempting to reach in with your fingers and grab those nuggets, but don't do it. That is scalding hot oil there. But here's a little remnant that fell off. Mmm. Good stuff. Ta-da!